You know those things that you find really annoying? The things that make you snap, the things that make you get reactive, the things that make you feel insecure, the things that frustrate you, all those triggers, they're actually pointing you to parts of you that you're not aware of. They're pointing you to parts of you that are left unexamined by you. They're pointing you to unconscious parts of you that you need to integrate in order to evolve your consciousness and increase your well-being. Your triggers are a blessing, just like the title says. All those things that piss you off, the annoying traits that people have, me maybe in this video, if I'm pissing you off, those things you see on the news, that politician, that group of people, that person who did that horrible thing, all these things that really piss you off and throw off your equilibrium. These are blessings in disguise. They're pointing you to parts of you that you are not aware of. They're actually ways that we can become conscious of ourselves and clean ourselves up. I'm not saying that anything that bothers you is something that you just continuously allow to happen. I'm not saying that you can't have boundaries. I'm not saying that you let horrible things occur. What I'm saying is that your relationship to these things and the emotions that they bring out and the reactions that occur, all this stuff is what we have to be looking into. All the things, all the inner psychological mechanisms, this is really what I'm talking about. And even when we look at these things, it's going to change how we respond in the external world to the things that actually trigger us, to the things that we find annoying. And in a lot of cases, we will stop getting triggered by certain things. It just won't hit us the same way. It won't do that. I want you to notice how you get triggered by very specific things. You don't get triggered by bananas on the counter. You don't get triggered by a bird flying in the sky in a beautiful way. That doesn't really piss you off. What pisses you off is very specific. What gets you reactive is very specific. What makes you frustrated, anxious, insecure. It's all very specific stuff. Basically, when there's something in the world that triggers us in some kind of way, it's almost mirroring a pattern inside of us, and it's because of that specific thing that this pattern inside of us can begin to emerge. Almost like how a puzzle piece fits perfectly with another piece. There's one pattern that's sort of activating a pattern within us. They fit together, and it's triggering all these things related to that pattern that have kind of just been suppressed there for however many years or however long it's really been. In the midst of our triggers and our reactivity, we just go completely unconscious. We're acting like animals. And there's nothing like, we're not bad people. You're not a horrible human being for getting reactive or making it a relational error or anything like that. But in the midst of reactivity, what we're usually doing is we're just defending unconscious parts of ourselves and avoiding our own pain. When in actuality, we can use our reactivity as an opportunity to wake up. We can use our reactivity as an opportunity to become conscious and move into the present experience. We can use our reactivity to clean up parts of ourselves that we're not aware of. So when we're actually experiencing reactivity, it's really hard right in the midst of it to just be our own whistleblower and to call ourselves out. I'm being reactive. I'm being too defensive. I'm just getting way too frustrated. It's hard to be honest with yourself and to just see the pattern clearly and to just call yourself out. This is the thing that we avoid. Usually when we're getting reactive, we just want to win an argument or defend ourselves in some kind of way. We basically just want to get what we want so that we don't have to feel whatever it is that we're feeling. And unfortunately, this is a childish way to continuously live life. This doesn't really work. Of course, right? If you haven't noticed, you can't really live life this way and maximize your consciousness and your well-being. It's not going to work. Inevitably, something's going to trigger you. You're not always going to be able to get your way, and that's that. It's going to make you mad. It's just going to bring out certain emotions in you. And a wiser thing to do is to just become conscious, to surrender certain desires you have that continuously create suffering, to heal these parts of yourself, to embrace more perspectives. Because what these triggers are pointing to us is basically parts of ourselves that are wounded, that need awareness, our full attention, healing, love. They're pointing us to parts of ourselves that we avoid. They're pointing us to parts of us that we do not actually accept, that we don't love. They're pointing us to parts of ourselves that we can unconsciously or consciously hate. These triggers are pointing us to parts of ourselves that continuously create unnecessary suffering. These triggers are pointing us to parts of ourselves that we are simply completely unaware of, and they're very fixed, they're rigid, and they're stuck. They're just stuck in these very fixed patterns. And they're not conducive to your well-being, like across the board, your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. They're not conducive to high-quality decision-making. They're not conducive to raising your consciousness. They're definitely not conducive to the well-being of your relationships. So when things trigger you, how do you respond to the situation? What do you find yourself doing? Do you find yourself just looking to escape it, right? Basically fleeing or flight? Do you fight what's happening and attack it? Do you just kind of freeze up? And these are just, the fight, flight, freeze system. It's pretty typical responses that occur in the midst of reactivity. And when we're stuck in the fight, flight, freeze, we are really just almost regressing to pretty primitive parts of ourselves. We're almost shutting off the higher aspects of ourselves and reducing ourselves to the most animalistic parts within us that exist. And there's nothing bad or wrong about those parts. It's just that we're shutting ourselves off from the rest of our parts. Certain wounded aspects of ourselves take over and they start running the show. The parts of ourselves that were wounded in childhood become the captain of the ship, rather than our higher aspects being the captain of the ship. And a lot of these parts of us that get triggered have been there for very long, and you have been repressing them completely unconsciously. You don't even know that you're doing it. And you've most likely had to do it in order to survive and to avoid pain. Maybe certain parts of you don't get the approval that you want from your parents or your partner or from your career, your workplace. So you have to kind of hide those parts. You got to push them away. But it doesn't really work because it comes out in unexpected ways. It's almost like if we have a hose, right? A hose that, squirts out water, and we're just kind of trying to put our hand on top of the hose in order to stop the water from flowing. What happens? The water starts shooting out in a bunch of weird ways. It has to come out somehow. It can't just all stay in the hose. It just doesn't work. And it's the same thing with you, these parts of you, your emotions, the energy that gets repressed and stored in your body. It comes out in unexpected ways in the form of addictions, avoidance patterns, reactivity, just unconscious behaviors in general. So when you find yourself getting reactive, call yourself out. Make the counterintuitive move of just being your own whistleblower. When you're in the midst of a fight with your loved one, right, with your spouse, your significant other, I'm just being reactive, right? This whole way of relating to each other is wrong. It's a major relational error. It's not going to help you in any way in your relationships, and it'll occur, and it's fine. You're not a bad person. You don't have to shame yourself for it. It's just that you're going to want to become conscious of it so that you don't continuously do it over and over and over and over again. And before you know it, this is your entire relationship for the rest of your life. So compare what I just said to how you typically respond when you're reactive, your defensiveness, your tension, your avoidance, your aggression, your victim mentality, blaming, whatever it is. Maybe you minimize yourself versus kind of just standing there being fully present and I was wrong, or I'm being reactive, or I'm feeling very frustrated, right? You're just kind of clearly bringing what's happening inside of you out of the dark, out of the shadow, and really into the light of your own awareness, like really into your conscious mind, into your thoughts, into your emotions as well. Like you're allowing the sensations to surface rather than repressing them. It's like a full integration of what's happening at every level of your being. You're allowing the instincts to come out. It doesn't mean that, if you're angry and you get aggressive, that's not what I'm saying when I say the instincts come out. It's just that the impulses that exist in your body, you're not fighting against them. You're not resisting them. You're not suppressing them. You're not struggling against them. The feelings that are trying to arise, this pure sensations that are trying to arise, you allow them to. You can bring them into your thoughts as well. You can actually just state that, I'm being reactive. I'm angry, frustrated, insecure, anxious, whatever it is. So instead of constantly avoiding these parts of you, bring them to the light of your awareness. bring them to the forefront of your attention and give it your full attention. And what really pisses you off? Get familiar with your own trigger points. Write them down. Right? A lot of people take certain things for granted when they're free in a YouTube video, but write them down. Don't be one of those people who takes this for granted. Get a journal, get a pencil, write them down. Write down the things that trigger you. Get clear about them. Map out your own psyche. Really dig into your own inner world. Do you want to actually heal these parts of you, or do you want to just click on to the next YouTube video and be like, that was nice, Lucas, that was a very entertaining thing, and that was all good, but what's this next thing about on YouTube? And then you're just going down the rabbit hole. Do you actually want to apply this information practically? Another good thing you can do is to actually just start a meditation practice. Learn to sustain attention on yourself rather than always projecting your attention outward. Learn to sustain attention on your own body, your own emotions, learn to process them. Learn to just be honest with yourself. Have the courage to be very radically self-honest, even when it's very difficult. Probably lie to yourself quite a bit. This is just baked into human psychology. It's called self-deception. You do this all the time. There's no shame in doing it. Just got to be aware of it. That's the whole point. That's why I'm making this video. Not to shame you, not to judge you, just to bring it to the light of your awareness in a very clear, direct way that you cannot mistake. That's my goal here. So write it down, okay? Like when something triggers you, this political party, this specific topic, when this person does this, you find yourself in feelings of frustration, rushing, getting super anxious and insecure, in states of disease, right? States of just tension, like physiological, just muscle tension and contraction and just lashing out. Write them down. Get clear about these things. Don't just allow them to exist inside of you for the rest of your life. What are you going to do? You have one shot here, man. You have one life. You don't want to just live like that. Unless you do, go ahead. But if you're a relatively wise person, yeah, you'll probably want to heal these parts of you. You'll probably want to give them attention. And I promise you, when you can develop these skills that I'm talking about, right? Very deep emotional processing and regulation, self-honesty, raising your consciousness, bringing your shadow out of the dark. This is going to feel fantastic when you can just call these things out inside yourself instead of allowing them to just be lingering problems that manifest in all sorts of ways that cause disease in every area of your life. You can basically stop doing that. You'll feel a lot better because there's a lot of suffering that you create in your own life that is completely generated by you and you don't even know that you're doing it. In this video, it's basically just me sharing a little bit of how you create some of your own suffering and how to go about alleviating that from the perspective of your own direct experience, your own consciousness, things you can do with your own awareness, just intra-personal skills. And when you're restructuring your mind in this nuanced way that I'm telling you, this goes on to impact every area of your life, since your consciousness and your mind, your being as a whole, is really what's driving every area of your life in a very deep way. Right? It's dictated by the level of your consciousness, right? When you really begin to rewire your mind in this way that I'm sharing with you in this video, everything in your life changes. The food that you choose to eat, the people you attract, how you relate to people, how you relate to food, the work that you do, how you relate to work, every single thing. So that's it for this video. I'm offering one-to-one coaching. You can book a free call. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.